Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini-episode, I have two stories. One, the possible return of the Fresno Nightcrawler, and a bizarrely loaf-shaped UFO was seen by the experiencers. Let's get into the first article. Fresno Nightcrawler-like being encountered during drumming ceremony in British Columbia forest, and hear exactly why this particular entity was drawn to this particular ceremony and why it might have been there. Let's get into it now. In the early morning hours, deep within a 5-acre forest in British Columbia, two witnesses encountered a silent, towering white entity that defied conventional explanation. The experience was brief but profoundly disturbing, leaving behind a lingering sense of dread and unanswered questions. What they saw closely mirrors a growing body of reports tied to ceremonial activity, indigenous oral traditions, and the enigmatic phenomena known as the Fresno Nightcrawler. The encounter occurred shortly before 1 o'clock a.m. when I accompanied a friend into the forested area behind his home. Almost immediately, both of us noticed something that felt out of place. Standing motionless along a path roughly 30 to 40 feet ahead between the trees, the figure was tall, completely white, and appeared soft and luminous. Though it did not cast light onto the surrounding trees or forested floor, it had no visible face, arms, or discernible features. Its form resembled an inverted V or U, with two long legs connected by a broader upper mass. The surface looked smooth and slightly reflective, similar to soft fabric or curtains, yet clearly solid and present. The being began swaying slowly from left to right, moving its entire body in a steady, rhythmic motion. Despite the movement, it never lifted its legs or changed position. It remained fixed in place on the forest floor the entire time. There was no sound, no wind, and no environmental disturbance. Even so, its whiteness was intense enough that shadows shifted across its surface as it moved. Watching it was both beautiful and terrifying. As we stood there in silence, I felt a sudden and overwhelming sense of impending doom, a sinking pressure in my chest that made me feel as if something terrible was about to happen, or that I might die. I told my friend that I did not like what we were seeing. He immediately agreed, and we left the forest without hesitation. We returned the following morning to the exact location but found nothing unusual. There were no tracks, no disturbed vegetation, no webs or debris that could explain what we had witnessed. The forest appeared completely normal. Later, I shared my drawing and account with someone who is First Nations. They immediately recognized the description and told me the name their people use for beings like this. Through further research, I discovered that several First Nations cultures refer to similar entities, especially in connection with drumming ceremonies and ritual activities. This is the first account I have encountered that so closely matches our experience, and I strongly believe we witnessed the same being or a variation of it, K, which resembles the Fresno Nightcrawler, folks. Now, some people have said that these beings are actually just hoaxes. It's just some guy basically wearing a fabric outfit that makes him look like he basically has no arms and just basically just two legs walking. Sometimes I think they basically do this with basically stilts. And while the phenomenon can be hyped, it sounds like what our witness here, Kay, saw was truly paranormal and nothing that could have been so easily hoaxed by basically some guy on stilts and basically in a fabric outfit. What he saw sounds truly paranormal and truly not of this world, folks. But do you believe it? And as you can see from the picture that Kay made, this entity really does look like the Fresno Nightcrawler, which also looks like an inverted V or U. So, are these entities real, folks, or are they just hoaxes? I would say that there's a good chance that these entities, since they've been seen in Native American lore, as well as with Bigfoot, that there is a grain of truth to all of this. Either way, we'll just have to keep searching for that truth, folks. And with further research, I'm sure maybe one day we all will know what it really is. Either way, let's move on to the next article. Silent loaf-shaped UFO hovers over Black Horse Pike, Belmar, New Jersey. Let's get into this particularly notable UFO encounter with this bizarre-looking UFO, folks. Let's get into it now, because it sounds truly interesting, because it sounds like a truly nuts and bolts craft that was witnessed. Let's read the article now. On the evening of August 15th, 2011, during full daylight and clear skies, a South New Jersey motorist observed a large, unconventional aerial craft moving low over a heavily traveled highway corridor. What initially appeared to be a distressed aircraft quickly revealed itself to be something far more unusual. The encounter occurred in a region already known for repeated anomalous activity, raising questions about what was silently crossing the treetops that evening. At approximately 7 o'clock p.m. on August 15th, 2011, I was driving northbound on the Black Horse Pike in Baltimore, New Jersey, approaching the traffic light near the Wendy's restaurant. The sky was clear, visibility was excellent, and it was still daylight. As I waited at the light, I noticed what I at first assumed was the front end of an airplane, roughly 75 to 100 yards in the air, crossing the highway about a mile ahead and moving westbound. The object was large and extremely low. My immediate reaction was concern, as I thought the aircraft was flying too low and might be in trouble. As I continued watching, the object slowed, then briefly stopped and hovered in place before resuming its movement. That was the moment I realized something was not right. The front of the craft was rounded, yet squared off, with no cockpit windows visible. Along the upper side, I observed 3 or 4 circular windows with additional round openings, or port-like features, running along the side. The upper half of the object was milky white, while the underside had a dirty silver metallic finish. The surface looked solid and metallic, almost submarine-like in construction. Here is a picture of the object, folks, and it does look like a loaf of bread, don't you think, folks? Or like a submarine. It's very bizarre, I have to say. It looks almost like a classic, spaceship from basically Buck Rogers, I would say, as well. At least that's what I get with the impression. Here's another look and drawing of it, folks. As you can see, it had no wings, it didn't really have any rotors, and it was just flying through the air, but does sort of look like an airliner as well, with all those portholes in the side as well as up in the upper part of it. Either way, a bizarre-looking craft, folks. But let's continue with the article. As the rear of the craft passed into view, I expected to see a tail or tail wings, but there were none. Instead, there was only a small raised hump near the back. There were no wings, no rotors, and no visible means of propulsion. The object made no sound at all as it drifted smoothly just above the treetops, continuing westward until it disappeared from sight. I was genuinely taken aback. My immediate reaction was disbelief mixed with excitement. I remember thinking how incredible it was to see something like that so clearly. I briefly looked toward the driver and the adjacent vehicle, see if they had noticed it as well, but they turned left at the intersection and showed no sign of awareness. I served in the United States Air Force as a security officer in the late 1990s, and I have never encountered or been trained on any aircraft resembling what I observed. The best way I can describe it is that it looked like a plane, a helicopter, a submarine, and a space shuttle combined into one object. Visually, it resembled a flying metal loaf of bread. It was strange, but undeniably impressive. I have to say, folks, unlike all the different types of UFOs I've had described to me from basically articles and basically read to you in them, this sounds to me, folks, that this man A saw some sort of experimental aircraft that was created by, the U.S. Air Force, or maybe by some other branch of the military and government, because it does sound like it, just from basically being described as basically a combination of a submarine and airplane, sounds like it could have been that. But then again, it was flying undeniably like a UFO, folks. It didn't have visible wings, and, there was nothing obviously keeping it up in the air. There were no propellers or jet engines. It was just flying. But still, the fact that basically that he alone was the only one who seemingly saw it is another, red flag basically telling me that this particular encounter was something more than perhaps maybe an experimental aircraft, or the government itself has some sort of technology that basically make, most people basically just deny or basically not see this object. Like basically it's a perception filter. Most people don't see it, while a few people do. Perhaps A was just in the right spot to see this object as it flew overhead. But I have to say, folks, this sounds like basically it was of human make, because it sounds like it literally was built from known human technology, because it sounded too much like basically an aircraft, perhaps maybe being flown with some sort of extra-dimensional or extraterrestrial technology. Either way, that's my view of it, folks. It could be alien, but it could also basically be that this was an aircraft created by, the government, and they were using alien technology in it. Either way, that's my view. But what about basically the Fresno Nightcrawler being seen basically in drum ceremonies, as well as these UFOs, folks? Do you believe that they're real? I do. Anyway, we're at the end, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. You can use the YouTube link down below in the descriptions of the chat to go subscribe me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure to hit the part of the bell. That'll give you all future notifications, and please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.